Imagine being on the battlefield, protected by a Roman shield forged in iron with decades of military tradition on its back. And suddenly, feel this shield being torn in half as if it were made of paper, not by magic, but by a simple curved blade born of the field of the earth of necessity. The falx was not a weapon made to kill. It was a tool made for harvesting, but in the hands of the Dacians, it became the greatest threat Rome faced in the east. With its elongated shape and razor-sharp blade on the inside, the falx tore shields, pierced helmets, and pierced armor. It wasn't just a war innovation. It was a cry of rebellion forged in steel. With each blow, it wasn't just flesh that opened up. It was Roman pride being broken. You're about to learn the story of the weapon that made the empire tremble. And no, this is not an exaggeration. No one imagined that a simple farm work tool could become the nightmare of the best-trained legions of the ancient world. The falx was born as a sickle, a curved blade used to mow wheat, cut branches, and clear the soil. But in times of war, what used to feed started to kill. Peoples such as the Thracians and especially the Dacians looked at that tool with different eyes. And what they saw was not just metal, they saw an opportunity for resistance. By adapting the scythe for combat, they created something that escaped the standard of conventional weapons. The curved blade, sharp on the inside, made deep cuts, hit vulnerable spots, and passed the edges of enemy shields with ease. It was a weapon of brutal precision, designed not to duel, but to destroy. Unlike Roman swords which cut and thrust, the falx pulled, tore through, and those who were hit hardly got up again. More than a weapon, the falx has become a symbol of ingenuity, of despair, and fury. Now that you know the power behind a simple curved blade, answer me honestly. How many other stories like this are buried in the past, just waiting for a watchful eye to resurface? If this content surprised you, imagine what comes in the next chapters. Here, each video is like digging up a forgotten weapon, and every click of you helps keep that memory alive. So, if you value knowledge, if you love discoveries that no one told you in school, and if you feel that you deserve more than the story told halfway, subscribe to the channel now. Let your like. It's the shield that protects this content from falling into oblivion. Activate the bell and come with us to rescue what time has tried to erase. Because here, the story is not just told, it is revived. Over time, the Dacians not only perfected their combat technique with falx, they also diversified their form. They created two main variants: the shorter one-handed falx and the much longer and more destructive two-handed falx. The one-handed version was practical and lethal. Its blade of about 40 centimeters allowed for quick attacks, ideal for combats in which the warrior needed to move with agility, defending himself with a shield in the other hand. This combination of mobility and offensive gave the Dacian warrior an advantage in direct combat against Roman soldiers, who often relied too much on the protection of their shields and armor. The two-handed falx, on the other hand, was an aberration in the form of a weapon. At more than 90 centimeters, it required brute strength and skill, but in return, he could break a helmet in half with a single blow. It was used without a shield, as it required both hands free. This left the warrior more exposed, but the damage done was so great that it was worth the risk. Each variation of the falx served a purpose, and both had a common mission: to break what was considered insurmountable. Between the years 101 and 106 AD, the Dacian Wars erupted with fury in the Balkans. The Roman Empire, led by the experienced Emperor Trajan, wanted to crush the resistance of the Dacians once and for all, but he did not expect that a barbaric weapon would put his entire military apparatus in check. The falx, masterfully wielded by the Dacian warriors, proved decisive on the battlefield. Where the Roman legion marched with discipline and close formation, falx cut holes in metal, in flesh, in pride. It not only broke through shields, but broke through enemy ranks, breaking the rhythm of formations. And when the Roman rhythm was broken, everything fell apart. Reports of the time tell of mutilated soldiers, torn shields, and screams of terror. Many legionnaires were simply not prepared for the strength and combat form of those men who came from the mountains with their curved weapons gleaming in the sun. Falx was the brute response of a people who did not accept to kneel. Rome never accepted being surpassed for long, and when he realized that Falx was putting its soldiers at real risk, Trajan ordered urgent changes. The first response was in the field of protection. Helmets began to have metal reinforcements crossed over as if they were bars, an attempt to resist the curved blows that came from above and from the side where the Romans were most vulnerable. But it didn't stop there. The famous Roman armor, the larica segmentata, rigid and imposing, began to be abandoned by some groups in favor of more flexible versions, such as the lorica hamata, made of metal mesh, and the lorica squamata, made of scales. This is because these versions allowed for greater impact absorption and a greater chance of survival against the Falx's deep cuts. Rome had to rewrite its battle logic, not because of a new rival legion, but because of a weapon from the field. It was the admission that the Dacians had found the blind spot of the greatest war machine of the ancient world. And that, for an empire like Rome, was almost unforgivable. It wasn't just the steel that hurt, it was fear. The mere sight of a falx in the hands of a Dacian warrior already caused tension in the legionaries. Many reports, indirect but constant, talk about the psychological impact of this weapon on the battlefields. Experienced soldiers, veterans of campaigns in Germany or the East, said they had never faced anything so unpredictable and devastating. The curved blade came from unusual angles, breaking the tactical patterns to which they were accustomed. The shield no longer guaranteed protection. The helmet often did not handle the impact. Imagine being in a tight formation, relying on Roman discipline, and seeing your companion next to you fall with his helmet cracked, blood flowing, without even time to scream. Falx didn't just cut, it destructured, demoralized. It was like fighting chaos in the form of a weapon. Many soldiers began to reinforce their equipment on their own, tying leather straps, extra fabrics, or seeking alternative forms of protection. Falx taught a hard lesson. Roman technical superiority had a limit, and it bled. Throughout the vast territory of the Roman Empire, many barbarian weapons gained fame. The hatchets of the Germans, the Parthian bows, the spears of the Celts. But none made such an immediate and visible impact on Roman equipment as the Falx. While the German axe required force and dealt brutal damage, the Falx combined technique, range, and deadly precision that cut where you least expect it. It was, literally, a weapon that defied the legion's logic of defense. Unlike swords, which needed space to cut or thrust, Falx could overcome obstacles. It was as if it hugged the armor and hit it from behind. It was a weapon that broke shields, but it also broke trust. It wasn't just Roman metal that opened up, it was the moral. It was the myth of invincibility being eroded blow by blow. Many generals began to rethink their training strategy in the face of this threat. And that says a lot, because when a gun forces Rome to change, it's because she left a scar not only on the field, but in history. Behind each Falx was a man who did not fight with it, but forged it with his bare hands. The Dacian blacksmiths were not simple craftsmen. They were architects of resistance. Using rudimentary furnaces, stone hammers, and wooden molds, they turned pieces of iron into weapons of pure menace. The process was slow, artisanal, almost sacred. Every curve of the blade was carefully shaped, every edge sharpened with patience and precision. The curvature was not aesthetic, it was strategy. It allowed the blade to go around shields and reach the neck, the leg, the unprotected shoulder. These weapons were not made en masse. They were often passed from father to son as relics of war. Some had tribal markings carved into them, others symbols of animals that represented strength, fury, or protection. A well-cared-for falx could last for decades and carry stories of battle, blood, and honor. Falx was not just iron, it was memory, it was identity, and so when a warrior wielded one, he didn't just raise a weapon, he lifted all the weight of his people, of his land, and his fury. Even defeated, the Dacians left an eternal mark, not only on the skin of Roman soldiers, but on the very stone of Rome. Trajan's column, erected in the heart of the city in 113 AD, celebrates the emperor's victory over the Dacians. But curiously, it does not hide the brutality of the enemy. On the contrary, there, among hundreds of carved figures in an upward spiral, we see dozens of Dacian warriors wielding the falx. The images speak for themselves: fallen legionnaires, broken shields, cracked helmets. It is not only a monument to Roman glory, it is also a silent admission of the opponent's strength. The falx appears prominently, curved and shiny in the hands of Rome's enemies. This shows that even the Romans recognized the importance of that weapon in the course of the war. The column became a memory capsule, and the falx, immortalized in marble, went from a tool of the field to a symbol of resistance carved in the capital of the largest empire in antiquity. A reminder that sometimes true victory isn't just winning, but be impossible to be forgotten. The falx was not just a weapon, it was a symbol. It represented the transformation of the ordinary into the extraordinary, from the simple into the mortal. It showed that even a tool from the field could take down trained warriors and shape imperial strategies. It wasn't just a curved blade. It was a lesson bent in the flesh and in history. Today, when we look at Trajan's column, the accounts of the Dacian Wars, the remnants of reinforced armor, everything points to the same truth: the Romans. Fear of this weapon was not gratuitous. It was conquered with each well-aimed blow, with each broken shield, with each cracked helmet. Falx became part of the memory of a war where the power of Rome had to bend the knee to the ingenuity and fury of a people who refused to be erased. Now tell me, did you already know this story? Did you know that a simple agricultural tool was able to double Rome's pride? Comment below what impressed you most about this narrative. And if you enjoy delving into forgotten stories, epic battles, and secrets of the past, so you subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and activate notifications. Because the next chapter of the story could be even more surprising, and you'll want to be here when it's told. If this story made you see the war with different eyes, if for a moment you smelled the beaten earth, heard the echo of the shields being broken, and saw the fury of a people resisting with their bare hands, so you get the idea. The past has much more to say than what the books summarize. Now it's up to you. Subscribe to the channel and join us in this mission to reveal what history tried to hide. Like, if this battle has impacted you, it's a sign that you value the truth behind the legend. And share this video with someone who thinks Rome has never been challenged. Because today you saw that it was. See you in the next chapter, because the next forgotten weapon may be waiting for you.